business. But take us back into those days when you were at Oracle. You mentioned that leadership was a really kind of powerful part of the growth and bringing people along. For all of the consultants and kind of consulting firm owners that are with us right now, who either actively are managing or thinking of building their team, what would you say? Like, take us back into those days in Oracle. Any stories or examples or things that your leaders, your kind of superiors, said to you that you feel really got you to rally around the team or to take action? Like, what stands out for you as part of that others might be able to implement themselves?
I do think that the heart of what I learned was to have strong values and not succumb to the pressures that would expose or compromise your values. There were times, and I'll be very open here and frank, I was back in the days when Larry himself would come to meetings and he would talk. And sometimes he would make a decision on something, and he was very open, and we would sort of raise our hand and say, well, why'd you make that decision? And he would start by saying something like, let's be clear, that decision was not easy. However, the values of the company, or the values that I built this company, are such that required me to make that very difficult decision.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me, because if you were to look at it, like most people, maybe most of your audience looks at other companies such as an Oracle, pick your Fortune 50 company, and you see potentially decisions that don't make sense. It was fun, and it was good for me to be in that room and hear that and say, yeah, face value, that didn't make any sense. And you always say, well, it doesn't even look like you know what you're doing. And yet very much knew what he was doing, and he wasn't compromising on his values and beliefs. So if that's a principle in itself that your listeners can take away, is number one, do you have values and beliefs that actually shape your decisions? And do you find yourself having to compromise them to, short term, right? Sometimes people will compromise their values and beliefs because, I'll get that deal, or it'll be a short term to a long term. I could tell you now, after being in the business world, I consider myself a recovering executive. After all of these years, I could tell you that the long term always wins out, because guess what? There'll be another Q4. There'll be another fiscal year. There will be another client. And I think sometimes I work with sales a lot. And sometimes I think what happens is people try to sit there and go, well, I've got to do this for this particular quarter, or else, I don't make my number. I'm like, there's another quarter behind it, another quarter behind it. You don't want to compromise your values because of something short term.